Hi, it's Will from stormthecastle.com, and here on YouTube you know me as Epic Fantasy, and this is my latest tutorial. This is a tips and tools video. I have about a half a dozen tips and tools video on a bunch of different things like hot foam cutters and hot glue and stuff like that. They're very popular videos, so I thought I would do one on working with foam. And you might not really know what I mean by working with foam, but in this video I'm going to dispel some of the myths about foam, styrofoam, expanded polystyrene, extruded polystyrene, what the heck they all are. I'm going to give you clarity on what the different types of foams are and which ones are great for working with arts and crafts. Like for instance, this is styrofoam, and I'll show you that. And this is my favorite here. We often think of this as styrofoam. It's got the little pebbles in it, but it actually isn't styrofoam. Right? This is expanded polystyrene beads that have been molded into a shape, right? But we often think of that as styrofoam, but it isn't. And my favorite foam material is something called Extruded Polystyrene, or XPS. If you follow my channel, you know I love this stuff. Been working with it for probably a decade now, and it's very, very flexible. It's strong, it's very light, and it's very easy to work with. You can make big things, you can make small things, and you can get a lot of detail with this. I love this foam. When I first started working with it, it was difficult to get. Now you can get it. I will show you where to get it. So, 3 things in this video. The different types of foams, what they are, how to identify them, which one you want, and then I will go into working with XPS foam, this stuff, and I'll talk a little bit about, and throughout the video I'll show you different projects that I've made using it to give you ideas. And then I will also, here in the video and in the description is a link to where you can buy sheets of this stuff online. You can also buy it at hardware stores. But let's take one quick look before we launch into the video of something here. There's El Guapo. Right, there's a 7-foot tall dragon made exclusively out of this pink foam, the XPS foam. Yep. Here, let's take a quick look here. I didn't make this dragon. I commissioned an artist to make it for me. Came out great, but see this sheets of foam? Look at that. And it's light, strong, and it's really, really good. All right, so this is a long introduction. Let's launch into the video. Thank you. Dioramas, origami, catapults, and treasure stays, telescopes, terrariums, bonsai trees, and paper games, swords and shields, and real blacksmithing, rattle rockets, animation. I teach the art of real creation. StormTheCastle.com. Let's make something. Okay, so let's take a look at the different types of foams. The more popular kinds of foams, before we focus on our XPS, which is predominantly what this video is about. There is, of course, Styrofoam. Now, Styrofoam is the most famous. You've all heard of it, and actually, many people don't. It's a big misunderstood. Styrofoam is misunderstood really well. It is the brand name. It is an actual trademark name by the Dow company, and it applies to mostly one type of foam, but they actually use it for a whole family of foams. But I want to show you here what Styrofoam is. It's a little bit different than what you expect. Like this ball here by Floracraft is made out of Styrofoam. And Styrofoam has this weird, it's okay, and but it has this weird kind of texture to it, like I don't know how to describe it. We'll cut a piece of this off, but one of the ways to know if you got Styrofoam or another kind of foam is the crunch that Styrofoam makes. Listen to this. You hear that? See that crunch? That's the crunch of Styrofoam. All right, let's cut a little sliver off here. There we go. See, you see that pattern there? See how that is? That is the major type of Styrofoam that's very popular with arts and crafts, and you can buy all kinds of Styrofoam shapes in arts and crafts stores. You can get it on Amazon. I'll have some links to this stuff. It's useful, it's inexpensive, it's very light, and it's reasonably strong, but it is not good for like working details. Like if you were to start carving this, the details corrode really easily, and you can't keep really good details, which might be okay depending on the project you want to make. See, now here's a sheet of styrofoam. Can you see that? It's 1 inch thick. I have another sheet here that's 2 inches thick. So inexpensive, very lightweight, reasonably strong, and okay. But if you're looking for details, styrofoam, this type of styrofoam is really not the way to go. Like, you couldn't carve a dragon out of this stuff because it wouldn't hold well. See, watch it. See how it crumbles? So that's just you know, something to think about. But it's very readily accessible. There are several companies, Styrofoam Crafts, Flora Crafts, that sell it very popularly. You know, if you've made a diorama of the planets, chances are good you used styrofoam balls to make the different planets, Jupiter and Saturn and whatnot. So that is styrofoam, and it is a family of products. So there are various different types that Dow has assigned to the styrofoam name. But let's look at something else called, well, here's green styrofoam. So you can get it in different colors, right? It's got that same crunch and the same not really able to hold the good details. Well, let's take a look at now what we all think of as styrofoam is these little beads, right? Which actually isn't styrofoam. This is called expanded polystyrene beads. You know, this material is expanded polystyrene beads, or EPS, and it's been molded into a shape. And you know, if you buy a stereo or something, and it comes in a box with, you know, this material protecting it, you know, that's what that is. That's EPS, EPS beads that have been molded. Expanded polystyrene. And if it doesn't have beads, but it's still the same material, then it's just expanded polystyrene, like packing peanuts. They are EPS, expanded polystyrene. And let me show you another one here. I have this big block that I bought. This is really, like, I think that's like 5 inches thick. And wonderful for some things, but it is very fragile, right? And you really can't keep much for detail with this. But, like for making dungeons and things like that, you can get this wonderful cratered effect. This is nice texture if you wanted to make, you know, rock walls, right? It's kind of nice. That texture, what happens there is good. And then you can seal it with Mod Podge and paint it. Seal it again, and it'll hold reasonably well. But that is a nice thing when it comes to expanded polystyrene beads. You know, that texture ability to get that. You know, so that's expanded polystyrene. Now, and let's take a look at extruded polystyrene. Right? There is no grain. Well, there kind of is a grain, but there's no pebbling, and there's no smashing, there's no crunching, and it can be cut very crisply. Like this piece, I cut this piece from a larger piece. Look how crisp those cut lines are. And it's very homogeneous. So you can, you know, cut out small pieces and get really good detail work with this. You know, let's just cut out a little section here. See the detail there? So, you know, all of those factors are a reason why I love this foam. And you can buy it online on Amazon. I have a link in this video in the description below in sheets. You can also buy it at hardware stores like Home Depot. Home Depot carries this pink one. That's by Owens Corning, right? Lowe's carries one of two types, sometimes both types. One type is by Dow, and it's blue, comes in sheets. And another type here, if I can, that Lowe's carries is this green guard by a company called Kingspan. So it's the same exact stuff, it's just a different color. I guess each company has decided they want their own identifying color. They're wonderful, and this is 1-inch sheets that are 2 feet by 2 feet, and this cost me $5 and change for sheet, and I bought a couple of sheets of them. So you can also get it in blue, get it in the green like this, and the blue is by Dow, the green is by Kingspan, and the pink is by Owens Corning. And it comes in different thicknesses. Let me see if I have a piece here that's thicker. You can get it in various thicknesses up to around, I believe, 2 inches. And here's a 2-inch piece, which is what the Dragon was made out of. All right? Love it. Very light, very strong, very easy to work with. Okay, so that's it for the different introduction to the different types of foams. Remember, what I work with and what I love, the one that has the most flexibility in terms of making dungeons, making projects, making weapons, making armor, making stone walls, and my wizard's lair has a lot of this foam in it, for structural stuff, is called XPS, Extruded Polystyrene. So that's what to look for if you're online shopping for it, or if you go into an arts and crafts store and you want to find this particular type of product there. XPS, Extruded Polystyrene. So let's launch now into, I'm going to show you a bunch of tricks and techniques for working with this. And in that, I'll show you a bunch of the projects that I've made, give you some ideas on what you can do. Or if you want to make one of those projects, I will also have links to them in the video and in the description below. Okay, so before we look at working with the foam, I wanted to point out some of the sensitivities of the foam. And you're probably wondering what the heck I mean by that. But this stuff is amazing and remarkable, and it is very adaptable to a lot of stuff. Like, for instance, acrylic paints are fine. You can paint it. You can use Mod Podge on it. You can use a lot of various different types of things on it, and it'll be quite okay. But there are some things you can use on it that are not okay. For instance, some types of adhesives, like this spray adhesive, I can show you that, give it a minute there, will actually eat away at the foam. And of course, and you may know this because this is pretty popular, but acetone eats at the foam. Nail polish remover, watch this. It's just eating that foam, and it's going to eventually crater, which is just something to know, but it's also very useful because you could use that as an effect to do textures and terrains and all kinds of stuff, so see, so that's acetone. Nail polish remover eats away at it. Just remember that. Many types of spray paints will also eat away at the foam. See how's this doing? The adhesive is starting to melt the foam. Can you see the pink there? See? So that's a consideration. Here's some spray paint. Some types of aerosols paints will melt the foam, and it's gnawing away at that. But a type of spray paint that doesn't eat the foam is this Krylon H2O latex paint. So this is like specially formulated. It's a soap and water cleanup. You can use it indoors or out, and I like this stuff. You can get it in some hardware stores. That won't eat the foam. So, here we go. So if you want to spray paint your foam, you do that. So the big thing I want to say about that is when it comes to treating with various chemicals, paints or different, liquids and things like that, you should always test it. Test it first to see how it is. See if there's a reaction. Glues, try a small piece first with your glue, see how it does. But look at that, beautiful. Isn't that beautiful? It's even formed like a glass crater. See, so there we go. You can see the spray paint here is eating away at that. All right, the acetone is the best in terms of just making the foam disappear. You can actually, dissolve this whole thing in acetone if you wanted to, Styrofoam is the same way. But all right, so that's it. The important point there is, test before working with any kind of a chemical. All right, so let's take a look at some of the ways we can manipulate and work with the foam, the XPS. You can, of course, cut it with power tools really quite crisply and nicely. That's a bonus if you have power tools. And you can use a hot wire foam cutter on it, of course. And like this hot wire foam cutter, I I use for a lot of my projects, and that is a tutorial. I show you how to make that. It's dual purpose. It's handheld and it's a tabletop. And a regular old hobby knife, X-Acto knife, works really nice cutting the foam. And watch this, you don't have to cut all the way through it. You can just cut part way through it and then snap it. A hacksaw blade works perfectly fine. So it's easy to cut. Yeah, and you can get pretty good detail with the cutting of it. And consider the fact that you can cut it in ways so it can be assembled. That's important. So you can make boxes, you can make all kinds of projects with this. A treasure chest, or you name it, dungeons, by cutting it just the way a carpenter would cut pieces of wood. Now, one of the most important things about carving this foam is to carve it, you have a lot of options. Like a rasp works really good on this. As you can see, I used a rasp to make that little mountain in the waterfall project. But I love working rasp. It's fast work, and you can get pretty good detail with it. The rasps were used for a lot of the dragon, for making most of the dragon. So in this surface rasp here, shaping rasp to shape it. Alright. And of course, sandpaper works really well on this foam to get it nice and smooth and to shape it. And you can go work, just like working with wood, you can go through various grits to get different textures. Get it nice and smooth if if you want it to. And then you can, skin it somehow with different types of effects, like a wire brush will give it a nice texture. So there's a lot of different ways to cut and shape it. And you can apply spackling to it, and once the spackling dries, you can sand that. I like the dry deck spackling because when it dries, it turns white. And, drill it. Right? I had to get a hole saw here. I'm drilling it with, but you can use regular drills. So it's just really, all of that shows you there's a 1,000 ways to manipulate it very easily, and that's what makes it fun and a good product to work with. Now, one thing I like to do is save a lot of those scraps, because you can actually use those to make terrain. And I do have a tutorial on making diorama terrain and dungeon terrain by adding paint to those shavings. See, there you go, there's a diorama. It's just a simple diorama. It shows brick, grass, soil, and flowers. So, alright, so let's talk about gluing it. Gluing it's important, and just like you did with the paint, you should test your glues, because some glues will melt the foam. But white glue, Elmer's white glue works perfectly fine. Craft glue works well. Tacky glue works well. What's that white glue called? EVA glue, I think it's called. And a big thing that I use a lot for if I'm doing particularly large projects with the XPS foam is Great Stuff. That is made for a home insulation, and it's made and specially designed to adhere to this foam. So it's really nice. And to make the dragon, we used probably 20 cans of this stuff. It works really well for foam. And of course, you can use a hot glue gun to adhere the different parts together. It doesn't seem to be working. What the heck? Well, it's not working because I carved that hot glue gun out of XPS foam. Gotcha. Just for fun. Did I get you? Did you think that was a hot glue gun? Let me show you one more here. See, the paint has made it very difficult too. I used paint and Mod Podge on it. See, but there you go, XPS foam. That was fun. I hated to ruin it. It came out pretty good. I could have did more detail work, but that was good enough, just to kind of trick you. So with hot glue, make sure you have it on low setting, because a high setting will actually melt the foam. If you have the small hot glue guns, those are low setting already, so they should be fine. But when using hot glue on XPS foam, just test it, just to make sure it doesn't melt it, like acetone. Okay, and one last tip I want to give you about working with this foam is that, it's really wonderful for tracing patterns. So you can do a lot of design work on paper, and then just put the pattern on your foam and press firmly with a blunted pencil, And what happens is the pattern is transferred over to the foam, which is kind of nice. I like that. I do this a lot with various things like this, the Skyrim dagger. So yeah, you can see that indent. So now you can draw over it and cut it out. So that's it. Here's some of my favorite projects when it comes to working with this type of foam. I have a tutorial on how to make a castle like this with just a few sheets of the foam. And that's really a fun project. People love that. And of course I have the Storm the Castle diorama if you're familiar with my work. And I do have some stuff about El Guapo the dragon made out of this foam, but I don't have a tutorial on how to do it. But I do have pictures in the progress, how it starts out as just sheets of foam. It's kind of interesting. And this Kirk hammer from Bloodborne, most of that is this pink foam, and I show you how to make that, and that's a fun project. And of course this sword comes out. So I'm going to put a playlist at the end of this video. Here's some normal kind of projects that are less game oriented, like this, gravestone and a cauldron, and those are all made out of foam except for the handle and the cauldron. That's not foam, but I carved this all out of foam. There's an easy Halloween project. And handles for swords like this Altair sword the handle is XPS foam. So upcoming is the playlist. Thanks for watching. Long video. Thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're a subscriber, thanks for subscribing to my channel. If you're not a subscriber, hit that button. I always have lots of fun and interesting and very creative projects. I do 2 new ones every week. As an example, here's a couple more videos you might want to watch.